Hi guys. Okay, so if you're like me, then you have some pretty thick hair that sometimes a regular ponytail just does not work for. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to teach you how to make this adorable little scrunchie. And I absolutely love scrunchies. I used to wear them all the time as a kid. I find that they hold my hair so well compared to a regular ponytail, and I don't get those headaches that I would get with a regular ponytail with my scrunchies. I actually learned how to take some hardware for Apple Watches, and I turned my Apple Watch bands into scrunchies. So that is a fun project as well, and I can teach you how to do that one too. But today's project, we're just going to show you how to do this adorable little scrunchie. And once you've learned how to do those, it will take you no time at all to make your very own scrunchies. So let's go ahead and let's go do that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is lay out the fabric for your project. You can use many different fabrics for your scrunchie. I chose just a quilting cotton for this project. I'm using my grid ruler and a rotary cutter to cut my fabric. I like to do this when I'm cutting just straight lines, but you can use scissors, they work just the same. You need a rectangular strip of fabric that is 3.5 by 24 inches long. If you want a bigger scrunchie, you can adjust the measurements, but for this project, we're just gonna stick with the 3.5 by 24. My fabric is cut on the fold, so I'm only going to cut my strip to be 12 inches. And when I unfold it, the rectangle will be the length that I need. After I cut my fabric, it's time to press. I pull out my tabletop ironing board and have my iron set on a cotton setting. If you're using a fabric different than cotton, you're going to want to check your heat settings for your fabric. It's a good idea to test your iron on a small swatch of fabric to know how it will work with the heat. What I'm doing is I'm just pressing my fabric flat to start with. This is the only time in the project I will actually press all of the fabric. After that, I'm taking the ends and folding them over between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch. On the ends, I'm only folding in the first 2 or so inches. I've done this step where I have left anywhere between 1 and 2 inches, but 2 seems to work the best for what we need in this project. I'm pressing that part down for a step later. We will do this step for both of the short ends of the fabric. What I actually do first is give this a little finger press on the fabric to create a small crease. This will be the line that we follow when we're pressing. After we finish our pressing, we're then going to fold our fabric over with the right sides together. The right sides are the pretty sides that you'll want to see in a finished project. We want to put 2 pins marking the spots where we pressed previously, and these will be the start and stop points for our sewing. To hold the rest of our fabric together, we'll just want to place pins to keep it together until we're ready to sew. Now we are ready to take our project to the sewing machine. We're going to put our fabric under the presser foot and sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. My machine actually has the end of the presser foot matching up with the 3/8 inch mark. I'm just going to sew down the length of my fabric, starting and stopping at the double pins. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and end of your sewing to lock your threads in place. If you don't, your threads will start to unravel from your project. It's also very important to remember not to sew over your pins. Sewing over your pins is a quick and efficient way to break your machine needle. Now that we're at our stopping point, it's time to backstitch and cut our threads. Lift your presser foot and needle to bring your project out from under the machine. Oh yes, look at those nice even stitches. We also want to make sure that we trim our threads as we go through our steps. It keeps them from becoming messy or tangled later on. After we've sewn our tube, we need to turn it inside out, or right side out. I'm going to use a loop turner, but you can use a safety pin or other tools to help you turn the casing inside out. For some projects, I'll use the small end of the hook, but for the size, I actually like to use the ring end of my turner. I start turning the project and push the turner through until it's time to pull it out from the other side. After we turn our loop right side out, we need to join the ends together. This is why it's a good idea to give ourselves some wiggle room with the opening we left. We need to pin or piece together the ends and take it back to the sewing machine. Make sure your scrunchie casing is not twisted when you are pinning the ends together. We will use the same 3/8 inch seam allowance as we did for the rest of the casing. When it is pinned, we will put the fabric under the machine and remember to backstitch at the beginning and end again to lock in our stitches. Okay, now we're getting so close. It's now time for the fun part of feeding the elastic through the scrunchie casing. I'm using a 3/8 inch braided elastic for the scrunchie. We need 6.5 to 7 inches of elastic. I have a little bit bigger wrist, so I like having that extra 1/2 inch to work with. I have used 1/4 inch elastic before, but the 3/8 just has this extra stretch or bounce back that I feel I prefer. We're going to need 2 safety pins for this part. We will attach one of the safety pins to one end of the elastic. As you can see here, I'm using quilting safety pins. I prefer to use these over the traditional safety pins because I like not having that little metal ring at the bottom of the pin. The other pin we will attach to the other end of the elastic, but to keep it from getting lost in the channel, we'll also attach it to the fabric at the opening. Okay, now we're ready to feed the elastic through. While we're feeding it through, we need to push the fabric along behind it. You can really start to see the scrunchie beginning to take shape here. Oh my goodness, we're so close at finishing this project. Once the elastic comes through the other side of the opening, we can pull the elastic out and off of both of the safety pins. But be careful not to lose the ends back into the channel. It will help to push the fabric down as you pull the elastic out. We have just 2 steps left now. We need to first stitch the elastic together. To do this, we need to switch our machine to a zigzag stitch. Every machine comes with some basic stitches. We want to use the zigzag stitch because it will allow our elastic to stretch without breaking the threads that a straight stitch would. We're going to do this just by moving back and forth with some zigzag stitches to hold everything together. I usually pin my elastic together to start sewing it, and once I have the stitch started, I remove my pin. But of course, whoops, I forgot to pin it. Wow, this is a great angle to show you guys how to run this under the machine. As you can see, I struggle sometimes with sewing elastic together, but it is together at least. After this moment, I'm going to take an extra moment to trim up some of the threads. And now it is time for the last step. We just need to close the opening we left when we threaded the elastic. We need to edge stitch or top stitch as close to the edge of the opening as possible. This is why we need to be aware of the thread color we're using, because this thread will be visible. We need to pin the opening closed, and that will help hold our scrunchie flat to sew it down. Before sewing the opening closed, make sure to switch back your machine to a straight stitch. I like to start sewing just before the end of my opening, and I will sew just past the other end of the opening. To me, it seems a little more secure when I do this. Begin once more with a couple of back stitches, sew down as close to the edge as possible, and then finish with a couple more back stitches. And then there you have it, a completed scrunchie. Oh my goodness, look how cute it is. Oh my goodness, so how cute did this just turn out? I hope that you guys had fun sewing along with me and that you cannot wait to make your own scrunchies. If you liked what you saw, then please hit the like button, subscribe, comment what you want to see next. I'm going to have my Instagram followers fill out some polls for me on what they want to see next on my channel. I have several different project ideas in mind, so I cannot wait to see you there. I really hope you guys had fun, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one.